It's night time now, and the atmosphere is quiet, peaceful, and still, so very appropriate for the practice of bhavana meditation. The quiet stillness provides supportive conditions for the practice. Today the sky was very clear with very few clouds in it. When the weather and the atmosphere is peaceful and quiet like this, then we should take the opportunity to practice and to learn from our experience of life. How we lead our lives is very important. We have to use this world and the things in the world, on the surface of this world, to provide us with the means to live. We have to find the food and resources for life, living in this world. Our life has a coarse side and a more refined side. On the coarse side, we know through our eyes seeing forms that there are the four basic elements which make up form, physical form, materiality in this world: earth, air, fire, water. And our practice involves removing delusion and wrong view about these things, removing unwholesome mental states that agitate us, make us disturb us, make us unpeaceful. When we reflect, I am komikayo, it means we're reflecting on this body, what we call our body. This is a part of life. The health and well-being of this body is something very important to us. Since we were born, we've been told that this body is ours, it's us, it belongs to us. All its component parts, we say, belong to us, they are ours. There are many parts to a body, not just one. But all of these different parts are made up from the four basic elements: air, earth, fire and water. Even modern science describes the body in terms of elements, trace elements, chemical compounds that make up the natural world, base metals and so on. We have all of that is described in modern science. The Buddha taught us not to concern or worry ourselves about this body and to let go of attachment, because when we attach and cling to this body and think too much about it, it leads to states of sadness, unhappiness, because the mind becomes blemished. If we are overly concerned with our body, this will feed the attachment and clinging. So we have to learn about nature, or the Satya Dhamma, the true way of things, to correct this. There are many ways to learn about this, to learn about the body. But if we are not careful, even as we're learning and practicing, we can still get caught into proliferation, worry, and thinking too much about these things. The important thing is to develop right view and a right understanding. And this is what will lead us to happiness. When we talk about this practice, in comparison we can talk about the people of the olden times, the olden days, in Thailand. They used to catch animals for work, for transport and so on. Those people needed to be strong, quick and smart to catch wild animals. For instance, elephants. There used to be many wild elephants around, and normally a wild elephant doesn't let anybody near them. They're wild, so they're very suspicious, fearful, and they see humans. Normally they look on them as enemies to be avoided. They would run or hide away when a human being was around. so that they would avoid being caught and forced to do things. But an elephant catcher or trainer knows how to get them through experience. He has many methods, many ways. His aim is not to kill it, his aim is to catch the elephant so he can use it for benefit, for his own use. Wants to own them, and so he can train them to do things for work and so on. So the elephant tamer has to get to know these wild elephants, has to be able to catch them and then become familiar with them so that he can make use of them. They have to develop a relationship together. The way they go out to catch wild elephants, to do this, it begins with using elephants that are already tamed, that they've already been using and have already trained. They take them out into the forest, following after them. Because all elephants know where good food is, so even the trained tame elephants, they can follow them and they'll find out where the food is and where the wild ones are, where they're eating. They would usually do this in the cold season. And they have one special piece of equipment for catching the wild elephants, what we call nangpagan, which is like the very elastic skin from the belly of a pregnant buffalo, water buffalo. They knead that skin, work it until it becomes very, very elastic, but it's very, very strong. So it's a great tool for catching wild elephants, which are very strong creatures. In meditation we make use of what we have in the same way. We use our body as the focus for sati, mindfulness. At all moments of the day, in all activities, we have this body here, so it can become the basis for developing sati, mindfulness. From the moment we wake up, we start moving, we wash, we eat, and so on. We have a body to observe and be mindful of. And our aim is to see the true essence of this body, to see it as Dhamma Dhatu, as a Dhamma, as truth. We observe and contemplate this body. We observe our feelings and reactions that come through it. We can observe dukkha, pain, that arises from this body. When we focus on this as the object of our mindfulness, our meditation, the aim is to relax the mind and bring it to a sense of ease by letting go of attachment. Because this dukkha, this sense of stress and suffering, arises from ignorance and delusion. Luang Por used to say we're tricked by the body because of our ignorance. And this dukkha comes from following desires. And it disappears when we stop doing that, when we stop following desires. Just as the Buddha, when teaching the unenlightened Angulimala back in the times of the Buddha, he said the famous phrase, "I've stopped already." Angulimala was, as a layman, was caught into wrong views. He was taught that by killing he would reach enlightenment by killing people. So he became very dangerous to society. The Buddha aspired to help him, realized Angulimala had many qualities developed from previous lives. He was ready, ripe to see the Dhamma, but he still was caught into wrong view. So the Buddha had to, first of all, impress him. So the Buddha waited in the forest, and when Angulimala came, the Buddha walked ahead of him. Angulimala was trying to catch up so he could kill the Buddha, but he could never catch up with the Buddha. The Buddha's special powers allowed him to walk fast, and Angulimala couldn't catch him, so in frustration he shouted out, "Stop, Samana." The Buddha turned around and said, "I've already stopped, but you haven't." Meaning that you still harm others, you still follow the mental kilesas, the defilements, and do unwholesome things. Through this teaching, Angulimala gained mindfulness and insight and realized that he was doing something wrong, something which society looked down on, criticized, so he changed. So like this, we have to stop and take our bodies as the object of sati, mindfulness, and start using our bodies for our benefit, for developing wisdom and insight. Like they wanted to use the wild elephants in the jungle in the old days for their benefit. The tamer, or the elephant tamer who's stalking the elephants, he had to stay downwind of them, because if they'd got his smell in the wind, they'd be scared and run away. So he sent in his own tame elephants first and hid behind them, and they led him right to the wild ones. The wild ones were put off guard, thinking it was just other elephants coming and that they were safe. Then the tamer would bring out his tool, his weapon, which is this elastic-like skin from the water buffalo, and he'd quickly wrap it around the feet of the wild elephant, tie it up. And this skin was so tough and so kind of sticky that it would just keep the elephant's feet bound together very well. Even though the wild elephant would tend to panic and try and escape, it couldn't move because of this skin rope made of skin. Then the elephant tamer would tie the other end of the skin to a tree, and the elephant was stuck then. It couldn't go anywhere. It couldn't even go foraging for food. And that's when the process of training or taming the elephant started. By not giving it food, it would start to become physically weak and then mentally weak. Its stubbornness, its ferocity would start to weaken. And then it would use the tame elephants nearby to show by example what the elephants were supposed to do, walking them, working them. They would start to learn what they're supposed to do in this way. And they could even, if they were particularly stubborn, they'd even have the already tamed elephants pick up pieces of wood, and they could go over and hit the wild elephant until it became more passive, more submissive. After many days of training like this, it would lose its stubbornness, and it would begin to become passive. And the sign of this was when it would start to shake its ears in acceptance. That was a sign that the tamer could tell, and now it's starting to follow what I say. It's workable. So we have to learn to use our bodies like this. We have to come to make use of this body to uproot attachment, to uproot the sense of pride, conceit, sense of self and stubbornness that we have accumulated. When we start to contemplate this body with mindfulness, we see that we have no real title deed of ownership of it. The more we contemplate, the more we let go of attachment, and our views and our perceptions towards this body start to change. With the letting go of attachment, we start to see that really this body is a source of dukkha. It's a source of pain, suffering, and degeneration. It's just leading to degeneration and aging. The more we practice, the clearer and clearer we come to see this. This is what we call Kayagata Sati. And the aim is to see the body in the body, meaning to see the body as empty of self, to see its true nature as impermanent, without self, and it being nothing worthy of attachment. This kind of insight is what we call the beginning of the development of seclusion of mind in the practitioner, seclusion from the defilements. The Buddha taught this regularly, over and over again, to the monks. In different situations he would always be turning to the monks, explaining these truths about the body, asking them to contemplate, asking them questions, and encouraging them not to attach, not to become infatuated with their bodies, encouraging them to see that the body is by its nature unclean, unattractive, impermanent, and not self. The Buddha taught them to contemplate like this, wherever they were, whatever posture, whatever place, whatever time, to have sati and to know the body as the body, to see the body as just the body, to see it as it is, and uproot clinging and attachment for it. If we keep observing with mindfulness in this way, with heedfulness over and over again, this becomes our place of practice. We say, where should we practice? So this is our place at the body. This is where we have to turn our attention. Just as we focus on rupa, or physical form, we also have to focus on nama dhamma as well. Nama dhamma has no form, it's mentality. It means that which we feel or experience with the mind. For example, vedana, feeling. There's sukha vedana, pleasant feeling, dukkha vedana, painful feeling. Just as in the world there is day and night, light and darkness, we have feelings, pleasant, unpleasant. These are all to become the objects of sati, of mindfulness. If we just observe superficially, without really contemplating, without wisdom, then we'll get caught into these things. Pleasant feelings we'll be attracted to and see as good, as something to indulge in. Unpleasant or painful feelings we'll fear. We don't want them, we want to get away from them. Just as in daylight we tend to feel happy, comfortable, because we can see everything, we know what we're doing. In night time, in the darkness, we tend to become more lonely, more afraid. So to contemplate these experiences, we have to make our mind firm and have to get to know all about the cause of sukha and dukkha, how they arise, how they pass away. We have to know sukha, know dukkha, vedana. We have to catch them, just like the one who catches and tames elephants. There's dukkha vedana, sukha vedana, upekkha vedana, neutral feeling. There's somanassa vedana, the pleasant feelings of mind, domanassa vedana, unpleasant feelings of mind. With all of these we must apply sati, mindfulness, sampajanya, clear comprehension, and be responsible towards these experiences that we have, meaning that we don't get caught into and infatuated with the pleasant experiences, leading us to laugh and become excited. Or when we have unpleasant experiences, we lose the pleasant feelings we gain, painful feelings, not to get caught into sadness or to start crying. These kind of reactions, laughing and crying, we see as inferior. They're a form of mental defilement or mental disability. If we keep focusing awareness on sukha vedana and dukkha vedana, then you make your mind like that of the Arya, the noble ones. Just as the Buddha taught the first 5 ascetics, Venerable Assaji, Anyakondanya, Mahanama and so on, to contemplate like this. This is the way they came to realize the Dhamma, to see sukha vedana, to catch it, how it gives rise to delusion and desire comes on from that. We can see that sukha vedana is the cause for the arising of kama tanha, or sensual craving, and vibhava tanha, aversion. Sukha vedana and dukkha vedana is where a craving arises. It's where we lose our freedom. When craving takes over the mind, we lose our freedom, our independence, and become slaves and oppressed by these things. All the time we have sense contact, so all the time we need to develop sati and sampajanya. We need to practice sense restraint to catch these objects as we have contact with them. Catch these objects, these feelings, these objects, and then these feelings arising and passing away, whether they're pleasant, unpleasant or neutral, so that we can put them all down, let them all go. The Buddha said we should live with sati to towards all nama dhamma, meaning that we should know the citta as the citta and aramana, or the objects of the mind, as objects of the mind. We must focus on both of these with sati, with mindfulness. The citta, the mind, has its contents, that those things which condition it and arise with it, or we say those things which are sampayutta dhamma, the things which arise in association with the mind. They mix with it, they affect it and condition it, both good and bad. But whether there are good qualities conditioning the mind, bad qualities in conditioning, or wholesome, unwholesome qualities, we see that all of these are not me, they're not mine. We see these things as just nama dhammas. We see the citta as just the citta. Akusala dhammas or unwholesome dhammas as just unwholesome objects. Wholesome or kusala dhammas as wholesome objects. We see them as just that, as experiences in nature. When we're practicing mindfulness like this, we focus on the citta and see the citta as just the citta. The body is just the body, the four elements. They're not self. The body is just the body, the citta is just the citta. When we see like this, we're seeing without the influence of the world. And it gives rise to jaka dhamma, meaning the attitude of letting go, putting things down, giving things up. We give up that which is only an enemy of the truth, delusion. We give it up, give it away. And the sati, mindfulness, is the foundation for this. We practice sati to avoid suffering taking over our mind, so that we can develop wisdom through circumspection to the point where we can separate all nama dhammas on a very refined level, to the point where we can see the sankata dhamma, meaning that which is conditioned and conditions the mind, both good and bad. But the Arya Pugala, the Noble One, they say that ultimately all conditioning is bad because it's all dukkha. The Arya's mind just sees that it's dukkha arising and ceasing. The asankata dhamma is the unconditioned. This is the way of the mind of one who has developed and matured their practice. Their mind is unconditioned, or seeing the unconditioned. Then there is no conditioning process taking place. There's no dukkha, there's no good, there's no bad. There's just nature, without anything mixed or added, just pure awareness, pure knowing. And this leads to peace. At every time, every place, every posture, there's just peace in the mind, coolness. With every sense contact, with the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body itself and the mind, there's no conditioning taking place. The mind is visankara, or unconditioned. It's cool. The Buddha says to have sati or mindfulness in a sustained way, without any break, without any loss of sati, will lead us to the unconditioned. It's through a process of training, training in mindfulness, in restraint, in composure. Just as when you ride on a horse, you have to use the reins to steer the horse in the right direction where you're going. Sati acts in this same way. It steers us in the right direction, keeps us in a state of being awakened and fully developed. And when it becomes fully established in the mind, it becomes sati vinayo. The discipline, the way, is established in the mind through mindfulness. So as you practice, don't worry or concern yourselves about life. Just keep practicing without attachment, without a sense of self.